point, McKeesport was a bustling mill town. It was a town with movie theaters and haberdasheries, restaurants, record companies. I mean, the list goes on ad infinitum.
People that live in this town now can't compare because they weren't here when it boomed. You know what I mean? When you had 5 movie theaters. 5 movie theaters at one time. We had big department stores. Sears Roebuck was in town. I mean, you name it, they were here.
As busy as Pittsburgh is now, which isn't as busy as it was 20 years ago, that's what McKeesport used to be like. You know, I definitely recall my dad taking me downtown to various places, and sometimes, you know, would park right along 5th Avenue. But it used to be so busy, sometimes we'd have to make a couple trips around to find a parking space right on the street.
It's odd because when people from McKeesport say, or used to say, we're going downtown, it was to downtown McKeesport. And even the surrounding areas, you know, people from Portview and Glassport, when they would say I'm going downtown, that's where they meant. Otherwise you're saying I'm going to Pittsburgh. It was a very different thing.
Every place in the Mon Valley, the Allegheny Valley, and probably, you know, mill towns around the country peaked during the 20s, maybe the 30s and 40s, up to the 50s. But you'll see a precipitous decline in population after automobile traffic in the suburbs took off. So that dispersed the population, it dispersed commercial activity, it basically downgraded, you know, the appeal of Main Street business. Kind of real terms, the exodus of the more affluent members of the population did cause a lot of the discretionary income, which would support the stores, to leave, leaving lower income, a lot of the population behind. Not only that, there had been an influx of people who were lower income because they took advantage of lower rents because of the market, the real estate market depression that would follow with a lot of people leaving at once. That's a second kind of repercussion from that exodus. The third one is that the number of jobs and the social service and healthcare increased quite a bit, so there's 30% of the McKeesport market, where it would have been a much smaller part when manufacturing was bigger there. Manufacturing and, you know, the retail with department stores and, you know, all kinds of other businesses that were there before.
I'm gonna see the best memories I have. Jason's, you know, was here. H.L. Greens used to be right here.
I closed down. They got the Subway Pizza, they got Hewitt with Taxpays, and they got T-Mobile over that way. And the barber shop, the little family dollar store, and the barber shop, the executive building, Charlie, Coney Island used to take they just closed down too. He was in debt too.
People building used to be the bank here, and all kind of build, you know, offices and doctors' offices and the dentist and everything. Where the clock is right here, used to be Cox's, right where the clock is.
What you want, babe, I've got it. What you need, you know I've got it. All I'm asking is for the respect when you come on. Hey, baby, come on.
My name is Michael Joyce, and I am the manager and also president and CEO of the McKeesport Palisades Performing Arts Corporation, which is the main cog that runs the Palisades upstairs. This building's been here close to 100 years, not quite, but close, and it's been a number of things. It was a roller skating rink, it was a car dealership, it was Tile City Tile years ago, it was a number of things, but upstairs it's noted for its wooden dance floor. On Friday nights we have the country line dancing where an instructor comes in and teaches before they start the evening. And I have a thing next month where we're bringing a professional boxing match in. The building itself is one of the branches of the city. They put that under the Redevelopment Authority because it's property. And the Redevelopment Authority has all the properties in the city.
Gotta find my way back to your heart, dear. Once again, would you take
This whole Mon Valley, there were jobs galore. I mean, you had 10 different big, good-paying jobs that you could do. U.S. Steel had 7 mills. You had Fisher Body, which made cars. You had Continental Can, which made cans. Every one of them were good-paying jobs. So there were jobs galore, and that ended up to be the demise of the area. When the jobs left, the people left. I can't tell you how many friends that I had that ended up losing their houses, losing their families and everything in the 80s when the jobs went away, and they couldn't go to another job. It was a proud town. I mean, when people said they were from McKeesport, they stuck their chest out and was proud of it. Now you hear them, they mumble it, from McKeesport, and that's a shame. That's a shame.
Happy birthday, baby, oh, I love you so, 16 candles.
I always tried to out-hustle the next guy, and that's what I give myself a pat on the back about, that be creative and think outside the box. I critique every bar I go into now, and I see bad ones and I see good ones, and I admire the good ones, and I just, see the bad ones, and that guy's going to say, the mill shut down, or the economy, or this or that, or something, and always have an excuse, and I always blame myself first. If something failed, I didn't blame an employee or something. I always blame myself. I started here and went from there, and then, did what I had to do. But I always blame myself, and a lot of people don't. You hear them always having excuses, blaming somebody else, and I think that's an important thing, to do that. Blame yourself first. You didn't work hard enough. Well, you didn't turn over every stone, you know what I mean, so to speak. It's sad because I knew it then when it was, and as far as the future, nobody can really predict the future. We all keep our fingers crossed and hope, but like I can go up the valley and every town's got the same hope, so, all we can do is stay optimistic and positive, but, who knows, I don't know. I would love to see it come back, everybody would. People today don't remember it, what it used to be like. I mean, it was amazing.
My name is Mark Galzerano, and I'm the second generation owner of Crown Picture Framing here in McKeesport, and we do custom framing and sell little artwork.
I'm Joe Hill, and I've been here since '73, and I guess you would call me like the right-hand man or whatever.
First mate.
First mate on the ship.
The ship to disaster. I mean, when I first started, I had 7 employees, and now I'm down to 2. Every year, we've cut some here, some there. I just laid my girl off here just about a month ago.
A few weeks ago.
A few weeks ago.
Back in the '70s, I think we peaked at 9 or at 8 people.
8 people.
That I can remember working at one time here, and everybody was working as fast as they could work.
Yep.
As fast as they could work. We had delivery trucks going out 3 days.
3 days a week we had deliveries. Now we have 1 stop, 2 stops once a week.
Because we service basically other privately owned businesses, you know, a few chain furniture stores over the years, but mostly mom and pop's outfits.
That's right. Hobby shops, furniture stores, paint shops, hardware stores.
And they've gone out of business, we've lost that clientele.
That wholesale
and
business.
It's hard to find those type of people to replace it.
The blighting of the community has affected my business too, because I mean, I have people in White Oak, which is a little better community, just 3 miles away. They'll call and say, "Is it dangerous down there?" Yeah. You know, I mean, can we come down there? Is it dangerous down there? Because the news broadcasts every little tiff that happens and blows it more out of a proportion than it actually is. So people think it's like the Wild Wild West down here, when it's really not the Wild Wild West. No. The town's against us. The government regulations against us, taxes are against us, property taxes are against us. The overall appearance of the city's against us. The middle class not having any extra money to spend, disposable income's a problem. I mean, it's all a problem. I mean, I don't know how to get out of it. I wish I could give you a definite answer of one bright spot, but I'm a pessimist, and that's just the way it is. I mean, I didn't start out as a pessimist. Just like I said, just watching the general decline of everything has made me become a pessimist.
Amazing.
Who am I? I'm a candy salesman. And the business that our business here was established in 1927 by my grandfather, which would make it a 3rd generational business. We've been in the same location since we were founded, give or take. At one point we were across the street, and then we came over here, and then we expanded. We're the oldest independently, privately owned wholesale candy company in North America. We have a wholesale company. It's called McKeesport Candy, and they sell to supermarkets and various places. And then we also have CandyFavorites.com, which is a separate company, but CandyFavorites.com operates out of here and purchases products from McKeesport Candy Company, and is probably in the top 3 largest online candy stores in the world. And it's also probably the most publicized online candy company of any candy company. I think McKeesport is a very interesting anomaly in many respects. As the mills closed, so did the stores. And as the stores closed, the population aged, the younger people left, and McKeesport has been working diligently to hold its own, but it's akin to treading water. So the businesses that have survived for 2 reasons. One, they're landlocked, meaning that the business is here, the property is paid for, the cost of operations are inexpensive. Or, in the case of our business, which has benefited from the former, but we've also been extremely adaptable. In many respects, you know, our business model changes daily. Like sometimes I'll come into work and I'll be like, what's today's business model? But our business has been able to, because we're a small privately owned business, we've been able to make changes really on a dime, as the expression goes. I've always looked at one of the reasons for the success of our business is that we're a family business, not because it's a family business that my family started, but because the people that work here, I like to think of us as one big dysfunctional family. With that said, you know, if you look at McKeesport, if you look at 5th Avenue, where we are now, if we walked out of this building and we made a right, you would get to Lick Paper. If you walked another step, you'd get to Tube City Novelty. If you went another step, you'd get to Minerva Bakery. So on this block, block alone, there's 4 companies that are at least second generation, if not third generation. And I would say that you'd have to search high and low to find a density of multi-generational businesses as we have here. If you look at businesses in today's day and age, there's 2 different things. It's no different than it's ever been. You know, it's evolution. You either evolve or you die. And you know, there's people that have businesses and their model has changed and they're resistant to change and they become angry and they fight that change. Well, that's great, but it's a waste of energy. As opposed to businesses in McKeesport that have survived based on surviving for the sake of surviving. They own the property. They watch their business dwindle, their profits dwindle. We're not that type of business. We're still a very cutting-edge business in a warehouse that we're bulging at the seams.
I can almost see John Calloway and whoever it is doing what they're
Right.
doing.
Baby, 15 miles on the Erica now. Now, what's the line? What's the next line?
Skip, skibby doo. I don't know.
That'll work.
My
My name is Aubrey Bruce. I'm an old guy. I love music. And I love Marva. I love Jerry. And I love the coffee shop that we're putting together to enhance the artistic ambiance and atmosphere in Pennsylvania. The physical structure that we started with was very unique in the sense of acoustically and from a size perspective. It'll be an intimate venue, yet it will still have great acoustics. Because some small venues, the acoustics can be very loud because you don't have any space for the sound to travel. But it's woody and woodsy and has a lot of absorption acoustically, which will be good for projection from an electric standpoint. With electric music, it would also be good for acoustics because it doesn't soak in the music enough with acoustic stuff, which might be unmiked, that you still don't get the travel log as far as sound is concerned. So it's a unique venue. But what we want to do, of course, with Marva's blessing, is to basically become, as Jerry says, the Mecca for all different forms of music and do it in such a way where it's welcoming, they'll feel at home, they'll feel comfortable to be able to express themselves. And that comes from the head, who is Marva, who has always made me feel comfortable as an artist and a producer, being as though she sang with the great Father Hines and she sang for 2 presidents. And when she can make me feel comfortable, I think it's our obligation to make the upcoming musicians feel as comfortable as well.
So was the yearning for so swear to keep every home fire burning for.
I was told that when my mother brought me home in my blanket, I was humming. Almost as soon as I graduated from high school, I started pursuing my career. I did some things in Pittsburgh very early. I studied with Ralph Lawando in Pittsburgh and got scholarships very early as a teenager in Pittsburgh area. And there are still some people around who remembered. I was an opera singer originally. That's what I really wanted to do. And as I traveled, teachers and people, producers in New York and surrounding areas said, well, you know, you need to do other kinds of music. I traveled the world with Earl Father Hines, and all during that time he used to say, Marvo, when you go back, open up some doors for other people, which is what happened with me. You know, doors were opened. At one point, there was not a lot happening, but after I was on the road in New York for a while, every audition I had, I made it, and then I was asked to go on the road with Father Hines. And he always, no matter how busy he was, had time for other musicians and other people to say hi and be friendly and nice. And that's what I'm about. I'm so happy that I've had the opportunity to have this bistro where people can come and meet their friends, have a cup of coffee, and smile. People aren't smiling too much. We've gone into something that's more than a home, but it is a home. And we want happiness and gathering together to do this. And why can't we get it together and have something wonderful happening in McKeesport? Or any place. If anybody else has an idea to do it, why not? Happiness. Love. That's it, love. And music is love, isn't it? Hey guys, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
The building that we're sitting in right now is Emil's department store. The building next door where the Marva Josie's Bistro is going to be at is, that was called KHAN. Is how it was spelled, I believe, and it was a shoe store, a high class shoe store, and also a high class clothing store. In this particular building here, this has 4 floors to it. There was a lot of seamstresses that were in here making garments that they would sell on these floors. So there's a lot of history. There's a third building right down from Marva Joe's place that was a beauty parlor type of, but like a high-class beauty parlor, you know. And then we can go on further from that. But there's a lot of history in these buildings, a lot of history in the city of McKeesport. And as you said earlier, McKeesport, because of the collapse of the mills, things have went downward. And McKeesport right now is probably, the whole Mon Valley, I guess, is pretty much at a standstill. And our hope and our dream is to re-energize some things in the area here. There's always going to be the naysayers that really don't want that to happen for whatever reason. But hopefully, if you plug hard enough, and if you're persistent hard enough, and if you fight hard enough in a loving way, you can win out. That's the dream. That's the dream, or part of the dream.
Keep saying 21st century economic development, and that means to most people quality of place. One advantage a place like McKeesport has is it has the skeletal structure of a really cool place, you know, with lots of traditional architecture, the topography. It's right on the river, 2 rivers. It has to be open to, you know, different ways of developing. You know, overall, you know, the steel industry did what it did, and the region rode on it for 80 years. So we have to be ready for what's next.
In my opinion, it'll never come back. Best thing could happen is they could knock all the buildings down, plow it up, and plant corn and start over.
You know, I still envision the same buildings being there, even though they're visibly not there anymore. But I still see, you know, Johnson the florist instead of a daycare center. I still see some small art studio instead of a missing building. You know, things like that. You know, so even though it is a little sad, at least I can still hold on to those memories of what it once was at that time.
I look at it with nostalgia, but I think I also look at it with a hope. When you look at downtown, yes, there's an awful lot of boarded up businesses, and those that aren't boarded up tend to be ratty and in need of some work. But it can be revitalized. The bones are still there. The structures are still there. If you go into some of those buildings in downtown McKeesport, it's amazing. You can't build buildings like that anymore. And to know that that's still there, and to hope that it will be, and that maybe something could happen to revitalize it, I think it's more of a hopefulness than anything else.